Amazon spent $75 million on a Melania Trump documentary and made back $9 million. That's just one of the 7 movies that bombed in January. And it gets so much worse. Brett Ratner hasn't directed a movie in 7 years. In 2017, during Me Too, multiple women accused him of sexual misconduct. He denied everything, no charges were filed, but his agency dropped him and Hollywood shut him out completely. Last year, Amazon hired him to direct a documentary about Melania Trump, and she also produced it. They paid $40 million to license it, the biggest documentary licensing deal ever. Then dropped another $35 million on marketing. For context, most documentaries spend maybe $5 to $7 million on marketing. The Taylor Swift concert film spent less. Amazon went all in on this. They planned for over 2,000 theaters, scaled it back to 1,400, and projected an $8 million opening. That would have been the best documentary debut in a decade. It made $7 million domestically. Foreign markets added a pathetic 110,000. The production itself was a mess, of course. They filmed all over the country as Melania traveled, sometimes with 80 crew members plus Secret Service on set. After Trump's second term started and things got nasty, several crew members took their names off the credits. Melania said she wanted to show all the work that goes into becoming First Lady. Amazon bet $75 million that people would actually care. 78% of the audience that showed up was over 55, and almost nobody outside America bought a ticket. Maybe it'll do better on streaming where people can watch out of curiosity, without paying theater prices. But Amazon spent the most money ever on a documentary that made $9 million. There's no way they're getting that money back. Nia DaCosta made a better zombie movie than Danny Boyle did and got punished for it. Last summer, Boyle's 28 Years Later opened with $30 million. It was fine, but kind of boring. More philosophy about humanity than actual horror. Got a B on CinemaScore. DaCosta's sequel, The Bone Temple, got an A-. Reviews were great, 80 on Metacritic. Audiences loved it, and yet it opened with just $12.5 million. Sony had already greenlit a third film starring Cillian Murphy before The Bone Temple even came out. They were that confident. Then opening weekend happened, so now they have to explain why a better movie with better reviews made less than half what the first one did. The answer's actually pretty simple. Sony fucked this up. Basically, they released 2 movies with almost identical titles 6 months apart, and nobody could tell them apart. You've got 28 Years Later in the summer. Then 6 months later, you've got 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. People saw the title and thought Sony was just re-releasing the first movie. Some people bought tickets thinking that's exactly what they were seeing. The marketing didn't make it clear this was a sequel, and 6 months isn't enough time for audiences to remember they need to come back for part 2. Second weekend dropped 70%. By the third weekend, Sony yanked it from nearly 1,500 theaters and it fell out of the top 10 completely. It's made $54 million total on a $63 million budget. Chris Pratt's been in some of the biggest movies of the past decade. Guardians of the Galaxy, Jurassic World, the Super Mario movie. He's one of the highest grossing actors working. But take away the franchise logos and the IP and what's left? Not much, turns out. His biggest non-franchise movie was Passengers with Jennifer Lawrence. It made $300 million. But that was selling sci-fi spectacle and Jennifer Lawrence as much as it was selling Pratt. When it's just him carrying an original movie, it doesn't work. Mercy cost $60 million. Pratt plays a detective who gets accused of murdering his wife and has 90 minutes to prove his innocence to an artificial intelligence judge played by Rebecca Ferguson. The reviews were awful. 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics said Pratt was completely miscast, and some called it his worst performance. Nobody showed up to see it. Pre-sales were so bad Amazon thought it may not even reach double digits opening weekend. It opened with exactly $10 million and a B- CinemaScore. Pratt said he loved the script, thought it was really inventive and unlike anything he'd read. He reads a lot of scripts, and this one stood out to him. Apparently, he was alone in that opinion. Pratt's fine though. He gets paid $10 to $12 million per movie because he keeps landing franchise roles. The Super Mario sequel comes out in April and will probably make $1 billion. Mercy just confirmed what everyone already knew. Without a recognizable brand attached to it, Chris Pratt can't get people into theaters. But as long as the franchises keep coming, he doesn't need to. Back in 2020, there was this disaster movie called Greenland about comet hitting Earth and some family trying to survive. It cost $35 million to make and earned $52 million, which during COVID was actually pretty decent. The movie went to streaming pretty quickly and found an audience there. People watched it at home and liked it well enough. So STX decided to make a sequel, and somehow they spent $90 freaking million on it. That's 2.5 times what the first one cost. Right before release, Canada pulled out. Just canceled the theatrical run entirely, sent it straight to streaming instead. This was supposed to be 10% of the North American box office with screens in Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. One of those Montreal theaters is in the top 10 most profitable venues in North America. The sequel opened to $8.5 million domestically, 5th place. Avatar: Fire and Ash was still #1 in its 4th weekend, and even a new killer chimp movie, Primate, beat Greenland by $3 million. The movie made $900,000 in previews and limped to $20 million total. Here's the thing nobody at STX seemed to consider. The first Greenland was something people discovered at home. They knew it as a streaming movie. And STX tried to reverse that relationship, take what people thought of as a couch movie and convince them it was worth leaving the house for, with a budget nearly 3 times higher than the original. Jason Statham had a formula that actually worked. A Working Man opened with $15 million, made $89 worldwide on a $40 million budget. The Beekeeper opened with $16 million and ended up with $162 globally, also on $40 million budget. Just solid mid-budget action movies where Statham beats people up. So they did it again. Got Rick Roman Waugh to direct. The guy who made Greenland and Angel Has Fallen knows how to do this kind of movie. Gave it an R rating, made it for $50 million. Shelter opened with $5.5 million across 2,700 theaters, ranked 5th for the weekend. It was Statham's worst opening in 18 years, 3rd worst opening of his entire career. The movie ended up making just $14 million total so far, and less than half of that was domestic. American audiences just didn't show up. Maybe it looked too much like the last one. Maybe people figured they could wait and watch it on streaming in a month. Whatever it is, this time the formula failed. Christoph Gans spent a year preparing this movie. He designed everything, storyboarded everything, made tons of artwork before they even started shooting. He'd directed the first Silent Hill movie back in 2006, so he knew the world. He worked with Konami to redesign the monsters. 50 days of shooting, 67 sets, all of it with just $23 million budget. Gans told his producers that certain details mattered to fans. Sometimes he had to fight to keep things in because people who weren't players didn't understand why they were important. He was obsessed with getting it right. Then the producers told him the movie had to be under 2 hours and basically butchered it in post-production. Return to Silent Hill opened to $3.2 million domestically, 7th place. It's got a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes, 2nd worst reviewed video game movie of the last decade. Only Borderlands from 2024 scored lower. At one point, it was just 6%. The movie did better overseas, though. Made $16 million there, including $9 million in China. But that still left it short of budget. It opens in Europe in February and Brazil in March, so maybe it'll break even eventually. After it bombed, Gans said there's a longer director's cut that has more room to breathe. Not sure, though, we'll ever get to see it. Icon Creative Studio in Canada has a smart setup. They do effects work for Disney and Sony, big studio projects that pay well. Then they use that money and that same production pipeline to make their own original animated features. The idea is to make $20 million movies that look like $100 million movies. Shea Wageman founded Icon in 2015 and wrote Charlie the Wonderdog around the same time. Dog gets alien powers, fights an evil cat, and becomes a superhero. Wageman's pitch was that animation doesn't need $200 million budgets. You could build a business making one solid mid-budget film per year. Viva Kids released Charlie in 1,230 theaters this January. It made $2 million total. They did the same thing last year with Night of the Zoopocalypse. That was actually a good low-budget animated movie. They gave it almost no marketing, just dumped it into theaters, and it bombed. Icon wanted Charlie to launch a whole slate of films. They've got 2 more in development. The business model actually works on paper. Do work for hire to fund originals, keep costs reasonable, release consistently. But you need a distributor who will actually support the movies. And look, Charlie is a simple kids movie about a superpowered dog. But at least it's original. At least somebody tried to make something new instead of Toy Story 56. Hopefully they get another chance with a better partner next time.